Hello everyone and welcome to the Sustainability Channel. I'm Thomas Stanley and I will be your host. And this is the first episode on this channel that will focus on everything sustainable. CSR, ESG, climate change, etc. Everything that is going on in this sector. And we will give you quick news updates once in a while, and also further on there will be interesting interviews to look forward to. But let's dig into the news today and have a look at the Eco Business website that are primarily watching the trends in Asia. And they have focus on the trends that will shape sustainability in 2024. On first spot here, we can find that they believe that there will be a heightened call to protect workers amid latest wave of AI innovations. And they're writing here that rapidly advancing technology has not driven conversations as significantly as generative AI has in the past year. And by showing how it can write a science fiction novel in a few hours to being able to interact with clients in various languages, ChatGPT has stirred controversy as it threatens to displace as many as 300 million jobs via automating them. And a quote here says that a new human as premium label will emerge, giving greater influence to artisans who can take on the creative spirit that exists outside of an algorithm. And also, as more businesses embrace AI to increase productivity and cut costs, there will be widespread calls to protect and support workers rather than make them redundant. So let's look forward to that. And on second place here, they see that EV, electrical vehicles, are fast-tracking developing in Asia. And sales of EVs in China have soared in recent years, representing around a quarter of the world's market. And in the home front, China's Hainan province has set Asia's most ambitious target to phase out sales of traditional vehicles by 2030. And EVs are already 9% of cars sold in Thailand, boosted by a US $1.44 billion plant built by Chinese EV giant BYD in the province of Rayong, which will become operational in 2024. And on third place, the Scope 3 disclosure will be in the spotlight. And they believe that there will be more expectations from companies to focus on disclosing not just direct emissions from their value chain, but also their Scope 3 or indirect emissions from suppliers and end users. And a quote here, it's a sign that companies are waking up to the importance of tackling indirect emissions and actively taking steps to reduce their overall environmental impact. And the heightened scrutiny from government bodies and key stakeholders are prompting corporates to take proactive measures to enhance transparency. This is also something positive. And on fourth place, they see a guidance away from greenwashing. And this group, Mintel, found that 74% of those surveyed in Asia Pacific expect brands to take the lead on addressing environmental issues and spearhead climate solutions instead of relying on decades-long plans on carbon reduction made by governments and institutions. And a quote here says that consumers sense that many companies are not being clear about what they are doing to have a positive climate impact and the positive effect their actions is having. People want to be more sustainable, but lack information on how to do that. Brands can make this easier by being more transparent. And they can do this by explaining how they reduce food waste, energy and water use, packaging waste in their products, and how they are working towards adopting a circular economy business model. And on fifth place, they see that there are a lot of elections going on all over the world, and will election fever in Asia impact the sustainability agenda? And for the first time ever, there will be 40 national elections all over the world in the coming year, and a quarter of which will be in Asia. But observers have said that incoming administrations are likely to continue the policies of and hold similar stances on climate change as the predecessors. And for instance, they are naming here India, where the frontrunner Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised 500 gigawatts of clean energy before 2030, but at the same time has said little about reforms for coal. Elections are unlikely to change that. So this is an interesting outlook for 2024. And of course, one of these elections are in the US. And Reuters are reporting from the US that businesses fight back as Republican state lawmakers push anti-ESG agenda. And so far, 99 anti-ESG bills have been filed in 2023 versus 39 in 2022. And the goals include protecting fossil fuel investments, firearms, etc. So US political battles over corporate sustainability are turning hotter this spring as aggressive Republican State House efforts face increasing pushback from businesses and pension funds looking to account for climate change and protect returns. And Lauren Doragasi, a senior vice president at government relations consultant Multistate Associates, she estimates fewer than a fifth of these anti-ESG ideas and policies originally sought would be passed into law, a share that still could prove significant if this happens. And one of these Texas bills, for instance, would require fund managers working for a state to only seek maximum profits rather than further social or political goals. So there is a greater focus on financial returns in these bills, and even things like saying that this is the Satan's work is pushing things a little bit too far, in my opinion. So this is something to look into further on. And let's end this segment on a positive note. The Guardian is having an extract from a book by the data scientist Hannah Ritchie, and it explains how her work taught her that there are more reasons for hope than despair about climate change, and why a truly sustainable world is in reach. We are hoping for that. So it reads, a world that was 6 degrees Celsius warmer than it is today would be devastating. And remember, 6 degrees is just the average. Some parts of the world would get much warmer, especially the poles. Crops would fail, many people would be malnourished, and so on. And only a few years ago, she thought that this was where we were heading. Forget 1.5 or 2 degrees, we were destined for 4, 5, or 6 degrees, and there was nothing we could do about it. But in 2015, she went to the Paris COP21 conference, and she says that the previous goal of the international agreement was to keep the global average temperature rise below 2 degrees by the end of the century. So she couldn't believe that she couldn't believe it when there were rumors that a target of 1.5 degrees was being discussed. Were they crazy, she asked. At that point, she already was giving up on the prospects of 2 degrees. It was so far out of reach. The notion that we could keep the rise below 1.5 degrees seemed delusional, and yet the target made it into the final agreement. And her perspective of 1.5 degrees hasn't shifted much since then. Without a major unexpected technological breakthrough, we will go past this target. But her perspective on 2 degrees has changed. She's now cautiously optimistic that we can get close to it. It's more likely than not that we will pass 2 degrees, but perhaps not by much. Her perspective flipped quickly after studying the data and not the newspaper headlines. She didn't focus on where we are today, but on the pace that things have moved at in the past few years, and what this means for the future. And if we stick with the climate policies that countries currently have in place, we are heading towards a world of 2.5 to 2.9 degrees warming. And she is clear, this is terrible and we have to avoid it, but countries have pledged to go much further. They have committed to making the policies much more ambitious, and if each country was to follow through on their climate pledges, we would come out at 2.1 degrees by the year of 2100. So this is the view of the data scientist Richie we see here on the photo. So this was everything from this first episode of the Sustainability Channel, and I hope to see you soon again. Please comment on this video, follow us, and subscribe. And over and out, and live a sustainable life.